Hi everyone, this is Kelly and I am here to just show you a little project that I am doing. It's actually Christmas Eve right now and I'm finishing up some sewing projects for gifts for my family. But of course, in the midst of that, I decided to do something else. I've had this fabric for a while because I wanted to make an elemental casting cloth. So excuse me, when I cast, I am mostly casting into the four corners for the four elements. And so I thought, how wonderful would that be to have it depicted, you know, with beautiful fabric. So so I had gotten the fabric thinking I would hand sew it, but I, never got around to it because that sounded a bit daunting. And I got a sewing machine for Christmas. And so I thought, oh, I have that fabric to make an elemental casting cloth. So when I cast, my positions are fire, air, water, and earth. And so I had this because I've been making some hot pads as well as some coasters. And so I have this Get Squared ruler. You can just use a regular ruler, but I had this. So this is 8.5, so that you have your 1/4 inch allowance for quilting, and then the inside is 4.5, again, so that you have that 1/2 inch allowance. So I just used this 8.5 inch to cut out 4 squares of the 4 elements, and I'm going to obviously sew all these together. And then I bought some backing fabric, which I'll show you in a minute once I sew this together, that I'm going to put on the back, and then I'll either just sew into the ditch here or right into the seams once I've done the seams, to kind of, connect the front to the back other than just on the outer side. Or I may go like a 1/4 inch inside each of them to lock it in that way. I haven't 100% decided, but I'm just going to sew these two together, then these two together, then all 4 of them together, and make the outer, the front part of this, and then I'll come back and we'll kind of, go through the next step. Okay, so what I have done is I have sewn all the squares together. First I did 2 and 2, and then I sewed them all together and tried to iron out 1/4 inch seams. That are hard to iron out. I am new to this type of sewing, so I'm not looking for perfection here. I have this kind of gold wood background fabric that I then cut out, not perfectly as I found, but again, I'm not really looking for perfection. But you're putting right sides together, so I'm going to put right sides together so you can see that's the wrong side, that's the wrong side, so both right sides are facing together. I'm going to sew these together, but I'm going to leave a gap so that I can turn the whole thing inside out, so that I'll have at least a nice edge around, or a nice edge around without any seams showing. So that is the next step that I'm going to do. This may or may not work. I think it will work fine for what I'm looking for. I'll turn the whole thing inside out, and then I'll run a seam along the edge, and then either again through the gutters, probably through the gutter or right between, to lock the backing down to the front is kind of what I'm thinking. We'll see how it turns out. All you out there who are real sewers are going to be like, oh my goodness. Okay, so what I did is I sewed all the way around and left a hole right here to be able to turn everything inside out. So I'm just kind of grabbing all the fabric and working it through to turn the whole shebang inside out. this is how I've just been making some easy peasy coasters for Christmas, and this is kind of how they were done, except for there was batting in them. So there's no pattern here, and I don't say that this is the best way to do what I'm trying to do, but you know, it's a way, right? It's a way for me to do this. And again, I am not a perfectionist. I'm just going to go to the corners and kind of push those corners out like that. So it's kind of like a pillowcase, almost like a square pillowcase right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go iron this out. But you can already see, right? Here's my fire, here's my air through the branches of the tree, my water, and my earth over here. So what I'm going to do is iron this flat, and then I will fold these ends in, kind of like that, but more carefully. But I'll fold the ends of these in so that when I go around the edge with a thin border to sew it all flat, it will catch that and close up that hole. And then what I'm going to do is try, this is where I'm a little bit iffy. I could do two things. I can try to what's called sewing in the gutter. I don't know that I would be able to do that very straight without some kind of a guide. But what I could do is do a 1/4 inch, you know, like this and like this, like this and like this, and it would, I think I'll probably do that. It would really separate off the 4 sections, and I think it would be easier for me to have a straightish line. So I think, because I have a 1/4 inch piecing foot, so I think that's probably what I'll do, because I feel like if I try to do this, it's going to be really wavy. So I'm going to go do that, and I'll be back. And so here you can see the back is like a gold wood, it's like a wood with like gold here on the back of that. And then there's my 4 things on the front. So I don't know if this might help a little bit. I ironed everything down so it's flat, and what I've done is I folded those raw edges in so that when I top stitch over this border, it will catch that. I think there's going to be a slight dip in there. I'm not the best yet at it. I'm working on it. Again, I'm not one who overly stresses about perfection. I do the best that I can, but I can already see, like, look at how perfect that is. Of course it would go, for me it would go like that, because that's how I read. But yeah, so I am going to go try to sew this up and get my mail. Okay, so I'm finished. I sewed all around the edges of it to just kind of lock everything down, and then I decided to, I knew I wasn't going to get in the gutter, but I ended up following the gutter line and going right next to it, because it was just, at least I would get a straight line. That's kind of what I was going at. Again, I am not super picky about exact things. I'll have to figure out, because it would be nice to figure out how to get straight in the gutter and stay that way. But that's a lesson for another day. So then from the back, it's hard with this pattern, it's hard to obviously see the lines here, but this will just keep it from getting bunched up and sort of out of sorts. So there we have it. This is my new casting, elemental casting cloth. What I like about this size is that it ends up being 16 by 16, and it fits. Now you can't see down here, but I have a lip right here and I have a lip right here, and it fits perfectly in that lip. And this gives me a little bit of a lip for casting. So for example, if I'm casting charms, it does give a little bit of a lip to keep things from flying off. Now if I get really vigorous about casting, it's going to fly off anyways, but I like having that little bit of a lip there, and so this of course fits perfectly. Again, charm casting, if I'm going to cast, you know, I didn't count or anything. I'm just kind of showing you if I'm going to cast a bunch of runes, I'm going to be looking at these runes in the position of fire, in the position of air, in the position of water, what's going on here. And so that is a great way of adding to casting positions, right? Because this is fire, transformation, creativity, that type of energy. This is air, intellect, mind, what's going on in the mental realms. Water, what's going on in the emotions and in the intuitive spaces in the inner world. Air, or earth, I'm sorry, what's going on in the physical realm, what's going on in terms of grounding and in the physical world, work, daily living, that type of stuff, right, is all going on there. So if I was going to do my journey tokens, you know, I would be picking out 4, 6, 7, 8, 9. So then I would take my 9 tokens, or 6, or 3. Well, 3 I probably wouldn't do with this size casting, but did not turn off my phone. Give it a good cast. And so then I'm going to be looking at these things in conjunction with their energy of their suit. So here we have, I'm just going to turn it this way because I don't read these upside down. Here we have the waning moon, some things to let go of, right, going on in the physical world. This is the repel. We've got something bouncing into the wall and sort of repelling off of things that's going on in terms of, so that's a disruptive energy that there's a set of 5 of my tokens that are disruptive energies, and how that might come into play in the physical realm. I love things that land on lines. This is why I like the 4-line setup, because when it lands on a line like this, there is this crossover between this is the new moon, new things that are going to start maybe from a place of groundedness, and that's what's going to allow that creative energy to start to grow throughout the cycle of the moon. But it starts with that melding of getting grounded in the creative area. And so I love when things like that cross over. That sort of getting my mental space rooted and grounded in my ancestors' messages from my ancestors that maybe I'm not paying attention to, or I need to heed, I need to listen to in my mind's eye, and being receptive to that energy, perhaps with a receptive token here. Here we have a cluster in the middle, so I can either again process this through, and again, I'm not really trying to do a whole reading here, other than just give you an idea. But, you know, I can process this by turning this over. Again, we've got active energy that needs to be pulled forward, that is, again, rooted and grounded. That is going to allow me to be able to express myself creatively when I'm actively in pursuing what needs to be done in the physical world, so that my active creative self can come into fruition, right? The wisdom of the elders and the web that's kind of here in this cluster that's crossing between the mind and the feelings. I've got to bring that wisdom to bear that pulls together my heart and my emotions and my feelings and my mind and my sense of clarity. I've got to bring those things together because they're linked and crossing that boundary. And it's towards this middle section, which gives it, for me, more emphasis. That's going to be really important for me. The other boundary, again, is that guidance. So I have repeated messages of hearing the guidance that's coming from my inner self, as well as from my ancestors and found my spirit guides down in the roots of the tree, which is for me, and being open and receptive to those things. I've got to bring those into light as I move forward, because that is really going to help me as I navigate my way forward. Again, I just wanted to kind of show you how I love to use it. I do this already, so I have my cloth that I love, and as you can see, you've all seen this before if you've watched my channel. This has those positions right there, right? So this is a chunk of fire, air, water, earth. But I do that a lot. Like that is pretty well the primary way that I tend to read. And so I just thought it would be really beautiful to have this visual color representation of those 4 areas. And I've had this fabric for a while, and now I have the machine to do it, and so that's why I did this today. So I hope that this was of some sort of interest to you. I am not an expert sewer by any stretch of the imagination, but if you allow for imperfections, I think you can pull anything out. And this is certainly something you could do by hand. That was my intention. I was a little bit daunted, to be honest, by doing anything that would resemble a straight line by hand. I can't even quite do a straight line with a sewing machine. So that was a little bit daunting, but I know it can certainly be done. Yeah, so there you go. Fabric wise, you can get, at least in the US, like at Joann Fabrics is where I generally get my fabrics. You can get what's called fat quarters, and so you're getting a square quarter instead of a long skinny quarter. If you take the bolt up, you're getting a square, basically not quite a square. I think they're 18 by 21 inches, and of fabric, relatively cheap. At Joann's they're $2.99, and they just all along the quilting walls they have it in tons of different colors. You can go to the red section and find red fabrics, whatever does the elements for you. I believe these were on bolts, because this is like that batik fabric. I'm probably saying that wrong. So I got a quarter strips of these, but quilting fabric is so often on sale that this, I don't remember what I paid for this, but it was at no more than $2 a fabric, and I still have a ton of this, of each one. I could make probably 3 more of these, and this was a little bit more expensive, but I know I got it on sale, so I think the fabric for this was $2.50. So 2, 4, 6, 8, $10.50 at most, and that's being liberal, because then I have fabric left over. So technically this probably cost about $5 to make, and a little bit of time. So yeah, anyways, I just thought I would share this. I hope that you have an absolutely wonderful day, and I will talk to you all later.